even back living in the hood, like I've always been the connector and a relationship builder. People would come to my house just to play basketball, play the game. I would bring other people in the neighborhood to do the same thing. I would bring people together, build relationships, and expand my horizon that way. And I kind of took that with me throughout my life. So when I moved here to Atlanta, I was like, I'm gonna have to start building some relationships.
Hi, everybody. This is Kirsten, and welcome back to the Relocate Podcast. Today, I have someone who I've known for quite a while. He is a South Carolinian, just like me, hailing from the great, big, small city of Sumter, South Carolina. He lives in Atlanta, Georgia now. He's been there for a little over 6 years. So he has a lot of knowledge about being in Atlanta, Georgia. Corey Jones. How are you today?
Hey, I'm great. I'm great. Thank you for the introduction. Appreciate you for having me on today. Looking forward to some great conversations.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you've been in Georgia for like long enough to give us the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys of your experience. So we're going to dive right into that eventually. Um, but before we get started, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm Corey Jones, born and raised in Sumter, South Carolina. Went to the wonderful University of South Carolina, go Gamecocks. And I graduated with a management degree focused in hospitality management. And we kind of talk about that later, but ended up moving to a couple of places after I graduated. Landed in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm currently now, at Google as a early career recruiter. And then also outside of work, I do a lot of content creation, social strategy, primarily on YouTube about self-development, productivity, and lifestyle. And I've been doing that for about maybe 5, 6 years as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Happy to talk about my journey of living in multiple locations, adjusting, figuring the landscape out. As I think it's good to see the world, but it also has its own nuances as you move to new places for sure.
Okay, so let's dive into a little bit about Sumter because I'm sure that a lot of people haven't heard about Sumter. I'm from South Carolina. South Carolina is not that big. However, I've never been to Sumter. So, what is it like living there? Or what was it like living there? I mean, it's been
Yeah.
quite a while since you've been there, anyways. But how was your experience?
Yeah, Sumter, you know, since I was born and raised there, I had no choice but to live there. So I would say one, I think a lot of people don't know Sumter has a Air Force base. It's called Shaw Air Force Base. So a lot of people that live there either migrate because of the military or just happen to stumble upon Sumter and realize that it's just a nice, small, quaint town, not too far from Columbia, not far from Florence, not far from Charleston, and not far from Charlotte either. So it's kind of like right there in the middle where you can access different spots, and Myrtle Beach, about 2.5, 3 hours from Myrtle Beach too. So we're like right there in touching distance to a lot of big name places in South Carolina and a little bit of North Carolina. But yeah, growing up there, I didn't see much, all I knew was Sumter until I kind of went to University of South Carolina and moved to Columbia. And I think it's just like a culture there where if you grow up in Sumter, you kind of figure out things in Sumter. Like what do I do? Where can I go? How can I be like a top dog in Sumter? But I kind of always knew that I want to leave and expand my horizon. So I was like, I need to get out, need to find a way to get out. And I don't want to have to go back whenever I graduated. Um, but living there as a kid, I feel like Sumter has its areas, of course. I feel like I grew up in one of the rougher parts of Sumter, but as time progressed, I feel like you understand where you're trying to go in life and you can see the trajectory of people that you surround yourself around is not where you're going to be going. So I think eventually I had to make a pivot to figure out like, hey, I'm trying to make a name for myself and I'm trying to do something different. So I'm gonna have to, stay locked in on a goal. And that was to get out. I see it as like a lot of people that I grew up with are still there, not to say it's good or bad,
Oh,
but,
wow.
a lot of my friends that I grew up with in elementary school, middle school, high school, still there. Valedictorian, salutatorian, still there. Like that's just how it was. So, um, not much opportunities though. So like no big companies or corporations is in Sumter. A lot of times you either have to start your own business or work in a mall, a factory. I don't know if you ever heard of Gold Kiss, but it's like a chicken factory, Sandy print, all kind of stuff like that. So it's just, if you live there, you either know you want to stay or you need to get out to expand your horizon. So that's kind of like what I did.
Okay.
We are known
Okay.
for Swan Lake too. If you ever heard of Swan Lake, the Iris Gardens, a lot of people come to Sumter just for Swan Lake.
Oh, well, y'all heard that first. If you like swans, go to Sumter. This is I had that mindset too, and I'm starting to realize I guess it's just not me. I guess in thinking like South Carolina, it was kind of like I don't know, it's like one of those places where people just kind of stay stagnant, uh, in a sense.
But I think a lot of people is a creature of habit. It's kind of like if where you're comfortable, where you typically find yourself. That's typically where you find yourself staying a lot of times is where you find that comfort. And some people don't take the risk to leave the comfort to feel something else. Sometimes that's a little bit scary, especially coming from a smaller town. I even know friends to this day. I'm like, yo, come visit me. They still in something. Be like, I don't know about driving on 85. I don't know about the big city, like.
I can't. It could not be me. Mm-mm. I knew, like, before I even got to high school, I knew I was gonna leave, and I just cannot imagine being. I mean, people, they have their own like reasoning for doing things, and maybe they're very happy, and that's just what they wanted for themselves. But
Mhm.
I appreciate your perspective on things and really being at that point at a young age of I want more. And so you did just that. Like you eventually left Sumter, went to arguably one of the best colleges in South Carolina. Oh, that is just you know,
I know that was
I'm
hard for you to
trying
say, but
to
so I really appreciate it.
but I mean the numbers don't lie. I mean, South Carolina, University of South Carolina is a pretty good school, and I feel like that's one of the premier areas if you really want to gain knowledge and do more and get more out of life in education in South Carolina. That is where you go. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And also, my first time being on a plane was when I went to University of South Carolina. Like, I was working as um, I was working in our student union, and then my manager was like, "Hey, they're having a conference in Illinois. We think you're a good student leader. Let's get you out there." And I was like, "All right, cool." I'm thinking I would have had to drive. He's like, "Oh yeah, we gonna pay for your flight." I was like, "Flight? Yeah, I got a flight." He's like, "Yeah." So he actually picked me up from my dorm or my apartment at the time, took me to the airport, and picked me up from the airport. So that was like my first time experiencing being on a plane, and I thought I was the man.
Oh, that is so precious. I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
and now I think about it, I don't. Yeah, I think I was the same way. Oh no, I took one flight. Then I got to college, and yeah, that's when I started to really travel and experience more with my education. That's
Hmm.
a good point too. Okay. I am wondering because South Carolina is the capital. I mean, ugh, Columbia is the capital of South Carolina. You went to school in the capital, and I can imagine that there's a lot of connections that you've gained when you were there. But in the end, did you know that after graduating you wanted to just completely leave South Carolina, or did you see opportunities in Columbia that kind of piqued your interest?
Not really. I saw a little bit of opportunities, but I knew that I wanted to get out of South Carolina, experience that. And I was like, I knew if I ever wanted to come back, South Carolina isn't going anywhere. Columbia isn't going anywhere. But I really wanted to challenge myself as a man to be able to go out into the world and do my own thing, like I think growing up you hear about, yeah, if you go to South Carolina, you could do this, you could do that, or, if you stay in South Carolina, maybe you can do this. But it's like I wanted to make a name for myself. So I knew like I'm trying to do something nobody in my family ever did. I'm trying to go places that nobody ever lived, traveled to, and I could speak to that from a different perspective. So I knew once I graduated, I was like, I'm going to be gone with the first opportunity I get. And that's how I ended up, like I said, with the internship after I graduated, because I was looking for a full-time opportunity. But I was like, well, this internship is going to get me out of South Carolina and experience something new. And that was my first time living somewhere outside of South Carolina. So I was like, let me take that. And so yeah, I always knew I was leaving. No doubt.
Okay. Okay. Well, tell us about that internship experience and exactly where you were and
Yeah.
how long you were there for.
Yeah, so I ended up getting an internship with the Disney College program. So I was in Orlando for about 6 months, 5.5, 6 months, and they just had a bunch of us either still in college or people who recently graduated college in the program. Had about 4 or 5 roommates in an apartment. My best roommate was from Philly. Still keep in contact with him to this day. Ben, shout out to you. But all of us, had the same goal in mind, just trying to get out our states, try something new, and be in the midst of the Disney culture, So I learned a lot about, for one, I feel like Orlando has a lot of tourists. So you meet a lot of people from all over. It's not just people from Orlando. It's no everyone that I used to meet randomly never was like legit from Orlando. So it like really opened my eyes into like different cultures, different backgrounds, adapting to the working styles of different people, communicating with even guests in the parks and stuff like that. So it kind of really helped propel my career, because once I had Disney on my resume, I started getting more calls you know, um, after I finished the internship. But being in Orlando itself, uh, it was a weird place because I felt like I couldn't get immersed into the city just because there's so many people in and out. Like I felt like it didn't have its own culture outside of just being a
Oh,
tourist spot. So for
yeah.
me, I knew I wasn't going to stay in Orlando after the internship. I had an opportunity to return as an intern, but I decided to decline it because I wanted to be somewhere where it's more so of a culture and more so of like, if I go there, I feel a part of it. And I still felt like a visitor. I still felt like a tourist. And a lot of people said that too, like, especially throughout the summer, just people in and out, people vacationing. And I didn't really want to be in a city that's kind of deemed as that.
Okay. I get that. Okay. So you fulfilled your service at the internship, and you ultimately ended up leaving Orlando and going.
Yeah, back to Columbia. So I ended up back in Columbia. For one, I was in a relationship at the time too, so I went back for my
Oh,
relationship.
that's
Two,
thoughtful.
yeah, two was the when I was in Orlando, I was applying to jobs in like Columbia and Charlotte, and a lot of Columbia hotels was calling me because, like I said, I graduated with a hospitality management degree, so I was interested in like resort management, hotel management. So I was just applying to a bunch of hotels, and maybe 2 or 3 hotels called me back from Columbia. So I ended up working at the DoubleTree front desk for a year. Then I ended up jumping up to assistant director of rooms randomly at another hotel, the Embassy Suites, and stayed there for a little while, and then decided that I didn't want to be in hotels anymore. And one day, my old advisor from the University of South Carolina called me while I was thinking the same thing. It was like, hey, they have a recruiter admissions counsel role opening up in the admissions office at South Carolina. Think you'll be a good fit. I know the assistant director. If you want it, let me know. I said I want it. Got the job. Ended up working at the University of South Carolina too. So that's how I ended up back in Columbia.
Oh my gosh, whole a career swap.
Whole career swap. Complete 180.
What was going through your head like when that happened?
Well, for one, I feel like my experience in hotels was very challenging due to like my age. So I was the youngest assistant director at the hotel. So it was like hard to get respect. I was in charge of housekeepers. I was in charge of like, a little bit of engineering. So a lot of times it was just unwanted attention and unwanted problems due to my age. So it's hard for me to really change things. So that made it challenging, and it made me not want to work as hard as I wanted to. But also I realized that I just didn't want to continue in hotel management, didn't want to be a general manager anymore. I realized the pay wasn't going to be what I wanted it to be. Um, and I feel like the challenge is I just didn't want to deal with guests anymore. Like we as guests, it's just, you find every little problem. You're trying to find every little way to get a discount. You're trying to find any little reason to sue the hotel to get some money. You're trying to I just didn't want to be around that environment anymore and having to always prove that the guest is right, even though it's could be against my own morals and values as a person and as a man. You still got to make that call. So I was like, yeah, this ain't for me. So that's really what was going through my mind. Um, and also, one thing happened in the hotel that I never thought would happen was someone passed away, and I was the manager on duty in the hotel when it happened.
That is not funny. I'm
So,
mainly like laughing or like I'm smiling because we have similar backgrounds. I worked at Marriott in North Charleston, and someone passed away in the bathroom while I was like working.
oh,
Yeah, and they
see,
didn't
so
even
you,
they was not even a guest.
oh, dang,
Go ahead, I'm sorry. It's
yeah,
not
dang. Well,
funny.
yeah, so you know
Please
too,
forgive
but
me.
so
Not
then they
funny.
sent me up to the room, and the wife was there, and apparently the wife knew that it was gonna happen. She was like, yeah, I knew it's going to happen one of these days, and I just didn't want it to happen in the house. So we booked a room. And I was like, oh my God. But yeah, either way, it was a lot. Oh, and I was one of the managers on duty during the catastrophic flood that happened in South Carolina too. So not only was I
Oh,
locked in the hotel,
golly, man.
had to figure out how to get housekeepers into the hotel to clean, had to figure out how to get water, had to figure out how to it was a lot on a young recent college grad, don't know nothing about
Yeah.
anything. So yeah, that was my experience. I got out of there with the quickness.
I remember that flood. Because
Yeah,
it flooded everywhere, I
everywhere,
feel, in South
everywhere.
Carolina. Yo, the one
Yeah,
thing I
my mama
remember,
had to get rescued out her house in Sumter in a boat. That's how
not
bad
mo
it was.
not mama.
In a whole
Oh my
boat.
gosh.
Yeah, that it was crazy out there.
Yeah, it was.
My
It
mom and my
was.
grandma, both of them was on the boat at the same time.
They didn't they didn't lose the house though, right? Like,
Nah, nah, nah,
wh-
nah,
wh-
nah.
okay. They were able to get everything taken care
The
of
water
and
came like right up to the stairs, so it didn't even make it in the house,
uh
but
okay.
just enough. But
Golly, I knew that had to be scary.
yeah, yeah, that was wild, wild time.
I keep smiling because like fact that we had like similar backgrounds and similar experiences working in hospitality is crazy. And that's why
Yeah.
I was like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me
Hmm.
to where I
Hmm.
was like, it's time for me to leave South Carolina. This cannot be life. Cannot be life. Like,
Yeah,
every day
it's
somebody's
something that I
mad.
yeah, mad complaints, everything.
Like, sir, I can't help you with something that has nothing to do with me nor the hotel. Like, you just
Nope,
taking your anger out on us for what? Like, we got a
nope.
bed for you and it's comfortable. Go sleep it off.
Exactly.
Ugh,
Just lay on down and call if it's an issue then.
ugh. Okay, okay. So I'm glad that you had that pivot because I was trying to figure out the correlation between hospitality management and what you do now.
Yeah,
And I'm glad that you had that connection that just got you, through the door.
yeah.
Uh,
And
Harp,
luckily, my connection was cool with the assistant director too, and landed in my lap. I said, I'm gonna take it. But I think that's due to like when I was at the University of South Carolina, I was extremely involved on campus. You a Zeta, I'm a Sigma. I was president of my chapter. I was a ambassador for the college. I was a building manager. I was doing a whole bunch of stuff because I knew this was one once in a lifetime chance, and people where I'm from don't get these opportunities. So I need to maximize it and do what I can when I can and how I can. So it worked out. It worked out.
like how long were you there for?
I was at the University of South Carolina for 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, when I started
Um,
working there, start off as an admissions counselor, got promoted to like a multicultural coordinator, and then shortly after that, I was out.
oh, you left. Where'd you go? What? You bunny hop, bounce, 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 bounce. Okay, where are we going next? Where are we going next?
So then when I had so when I had got promoted to coordinator, I also was looking for other opportunities at that time because I was like, okay, I want to work somewhere outside of South Carolina. So I was applying to places in Charlotte, Atlanta. I was just applying everywhere. I had interviews in Detroit, interviews in San Diego, interviews in Atlanta, Charlotte. It was everywhere. I was like, whoever takes me, that's where I'm picking up and moving to for the next 2 3 years. And at the time, I was applying to like consulting companies, so like Deloitte, Accenture, EY, PMG, places like that. Um, so that summer, I ended up staying at my sister's spot in Charlotte for a little minute. So that's how I ended up in Charlotte. So I stayed in Charlotte for about 4 months, and then I moved to Atlanta. But while I was in Charlotte, I applied to a job at Deloitte, and they was like, yeah, we want you to come in as a contract coordinator, recruiting coordinator for the Charlotte office. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm already here in Charlotte. Cool.
Ooh.
So then they had called me back and was like, oh, hold on, let me rewind. I applied to a campus recruiter job, and they called me and told me they gave somebody else that job, but they have a coordinator position opening up in Atlanta on a contract. So I was like, I ain't really trying to be on no contract. But I do think this would be a good opportunity. So my plans was to stay in Charlotte and work at Deloitte, but they end up saying, hey, if you want the opportunity, it's yours. You just got to move to Atlanta. I was like, all right, cool. Moved to Atlanta, stayed on my cousin's couch for about 4 months until I got on my feet. And then I've been here ever since. So that's how I
Okay.
got here.
Okay. Okay. Was it the culture that you was looking for?
Yeah, it was a culture. It was a culture, the vibe. I had like Charlotte too, though. I like Charlotte's vibe and culture too, but I think Atlanta kind of fit more so what I was looking for and what I needed. Seeing like black excellence,
Mm.
seeing like people that look like me in high positions and high places, having a lifestyle that I aspired to have at the time. So it's like what I needed in order to fuel me to continue to grow, but also continue to push myself as a man too. So that's why I've been here for so long. I enjoy it. But I know you said you didn't like it. So what didn't you like about it?
Probably the culture. I hate to say it like that, but um, I kind of got caught up in just the Sunday fun days and every day there's a special for everything. Come get these crab legs for like the deals and stuff. There was just something every day. Taco Tuesday, Thirsty Thursday. Like I was really like having a
You
little
was
too
out
much
there with
fun.
it.
And
Yeah.
then I mean, that's what I like, but then it was kind of like detrimental to me because I was not focused. And then when I did like realize that and I tried to get focused and I tried to connect with people, I just didn't feel like my personality fit into where I saw myself. And at least with the people that I was meeting, it was rough. And then the scam culture there is so real, and I got frustrated as I was looking for roles, and
Ooh,
people
yeah.
were like posting jobs and opportunities, and half of them were scams. And I felt like that just was not for me. It was not it. And I just went back to South Carolina after that and found a real job.
Gotcha.
And did not take me long. So,
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I see that a lot. I feel like Atlanta could be a hit or miss for people, and like you said, it is a lot. It's a lot. Some scammers out here. It's sometimes it's a lot to do. People. I mean, I feel like it also depends on what you're looking for too. But like you said, if you want to be out in the streets having fun, brunch on Sunday, somewhere every day, you could do that. Also, got to find some balance too. But yeah, I do agree with that too. That's definitely a side that a lot of people see and can get you hemmed up real quick.
yeah. And oh, speaking of getting hemmed up, dating was not fun in Atlanta for me too. That's another reason I was like, it's time for me to bounce. How was dating like for you though? How was that experience? I'm curious, like
Yeah.
from a male's perspective, you living in Atlanta, because I always say like straight women are losing, but
Yeah.
just from the outside looking in, like yeah, how's that going for you? How because like you aren't you in a relationship? You taking that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm in
but
a
like
relationship.
yeah, like how was that
Yeah.
experience for you until like that point?
Well, I feel like dating for me in Atlanta I feel like it was fun for me. I think it was a good bit of women to take on dates, quality women, about their business, know what they want. At the time, it was either me that was either playing games or just trying to, be out in the streets. Or if I want to take it serious, I feel like it was up to me. But I feel like for my experience when I first got here, for sure, I didn't have any issues. I think the main thing was for me was just sifting out the reason why they wanted to date me. And I think that was one of the hard things. Sometimes women want to date you for what you have or especially Atlanta women. Sometimes Atlanta women can be very choosy based on what you do, what you have, what you got, how you could help them. So that was my main issue, is just making sure I'm sifting out the real reason they was here. Also, I feel like right now in my current relationship, she's not even from Atlanta, didn't even live here. She was born in Columbia, went to Coastal Carolina. So
Ah,
I actually, so she not even, I didn't even meet her here in Atlanta. So I didn't even end up with an Atlanta girl. So that's, that's how that worked out. But I have dated a lot of Atlanta women. It was fun while it lasted.
and look at God, you didn't have to go through
went
all of
back,
that.
went back home, homegrown.
Love that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I'm happy. I'm happy that
Yep.
worked
Yep.
out for you. Yes.
Yeah, it worked out. I don't know if it would have been working out if I had to, settle down with an Atlanta woman or not. Who knows? But ended up back at the home, South Carolina.
Love that. Yay. Too blessed to be stressed. All
Yeah,
right.
too blessed to be stressed.
Okay. I always wondered that, like how the experience is for others. For me, it didn't work out, but kudos to those who found a gem.
I mean, I feel
Uh,
like it is weirder. It's more weird for you all because I feel like a lot of women here in Atlanta got good stuff going for themselves versus maybe men. It might not be as many men that have good things going for themselves. I feel like it's a little bit smaller pickings for y'all here in Atlanta, but for men, everywhere I used to go, it was some, like, at least some quality black women. So
uh, you got to Atlanta through a role that you had in Charlotte. You just got a different position, and they told you, yeah, you can do this, but you have to move to Atlanta, um, and then you stayed with a relative for a bit. Can you walk us through like your experience of how you were able to develop the life that you wanted out of being in Atlanta from like the beginning to where you are now?
Yeah, honestly, connections, relationship building. I think that's always been a strong foundation for me. Even back living in the hood, like I've always been a connector and a relationship builder. People would come to my house just to play basketball, play the game. I would bring other people in the neighborhood to do the same thing. I would bring people together, build relationships, and expand my horizon that way. And I kind of took that with me throughout my life. So when I moved here to Atlanta, I was like, I'm gonna have to start building some relationships. So first relationship I built was with this this girl on my team that actually introduced me to everybody. First day at Deloitte, she introduced me, made great connections with her, built a great relationship with her, and she connected me with people that she knew, which also grew up in the area, which I met someone that knew of someone that was hiring for a role, which led me to leave Deloitte to go on a team that they was on. And then, they introduced me to people, and then that's how I kind of got acclimated. It's like relying on like relationship building, networking, and using those to put me in places where if I didn't know these people, I probably wouldn't have the opportunity to be in these spaces. Um, so yeah, me leaving Deloitte was because of the girl that I met at Deloitte knew somebody that was hiring at a Accenture to be a campus recruiter. They didn't want the role, but they asked her. She didn't want it. So she asked me. And I said, hell yeah, I'm going to take it. And then they put me in contact with the manager, and I left Deloitte to work at Accenture as a campus recruiter. So now I know that I'm in the space of being a corporate recruiter. I have leverage in the game. I built my experience up here, and that can ultimately get me to where I really want to be, which is in the tech space. And then stayed at Accenture for like 2.5 years, and randomly Google, a Google recruiter hit me up on LinkedIn. It was like, "Hey, we're looking for an early career recruiter. Think you'll be a good fit. Would you mind, going through the process?" At the time, it was for a contract role. I said, "I'm gonna do it." As I was going through the contract interview process, someone else from Google hit me up for a full-time opportunity recruitment role.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
I dropped the contract process and went through the full-time process, got that job, left Accenture, and that's kind of how I ended up here at Google. But it wouldn't have been for, me making connections to even get like a full-time campus recruiter role at Accenture first. Because at Deloitte, I was on a contract as a coordinator. So I wasn't even a recruiter. I was just helping recruiters with certain things and things like that. So that's how I end up where I am today. Through connections, relationship building, and even with content creation. Some of the brands that I work with, some of the people that I meet is through people connecting me through different sources that they know too.
How was that learning curve going from coordinator to recruiter?
Honestly, people think it would be a big jump, but once you watch what's going on, I think the role of a recruiter is very transferable. Like I know I could go somewhere else and do a great job as a recruiter because the skills are the same. The negotiation tactics, candidate management is the same, giving offers, rejections, putting people through the process, talking to hiring managers, all that is the same. The challenge is adjusting to how the company does recruiting at their specific organization. But from a coordinator, I was like helping recruiters plan events, helping them schedule interviews, things like that. So that knowledge was enough for me to go into a full-time recruitment role because I already knew what the beginning stages was. So, and then of course when I worked at the University of South Carolina as a missions counselor, we used recruitment tactics to bring kids to South
Mm,
Carolina. So I already kind of
okay.
knew what it took to, have those persuasive skills, as some would say, to be successful in a role too.
Was there ever a moment in your 6 years of being in Atlanta that were challenging or provided or led to any setbacks or struggles that you may have faced? Because it seemed like your once you moved, everything just kind of went like this, like just up
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. But
Okay.
to rewind, so when I got to Atlanta, I kind of almost had to start over because at the time I was going through a divorce. I don't know if you knew that, but at the time I was going through a divorce because I ended up marrying the girl that I was talking about when I moved back to Columbia. So we was married for about, well, we had got married and got a divorce within about a year of being married. So when I moved to Atlanta, it was just like a fresh start. I was like, you know something? I'm starting fresh.
Hold up.
This is for me. We going in. And that's what happened. I was fueled by that. But yeah. But that's how I ended up having to go to Charlotte because we was living together in Columbia, and when that happened, we kind of split ways. So I was like, I'm gonna just move to Charlotte, stay with my sister for a little while, and then that's when I started applying to other jobs because at first I was driving back and forth from Columbia to Charlotte, well, from Charlotte to Columbia because I was still working at the University of South Carolina. So yeah, so that's
Okay.
how when I got to Atlanta, it was just like a fresh start, really for me doing what I want to do, getting it grinding, focusing 100% on myself. And yeah, so that's how it all came. I missed that key fact at the beginning. I forgot. I thought you
Mm-mm.
knew.
Glad I have my popcorn ready for this one. Like,
Get the
what?
tea.
What? Man, okay.
But actually
That's a
if
big
you go
deal.
on my YouTube channel, I got a whole video about it.
I need
Top
to
view
catch up.
video. Yeah, check that out.
Okay.
After
And
this, you watch.
we gonna talk about your social media too, because it's
Yeah.
been going crazy with over 100K
Yeah,
followers on
yeah.
YouTube. That's pretty significant.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so divorce, that's a very big deal. And that is a life-changing deal. That is a mind or mental like altering deal. And yet you persevered. You were able to, probably have your moment where you dealt with the emotions, you felt them, and you kept going.
Yeah. That's all it
Uh,
was when I stayed at my cousin's spot for those 4 or 5 months. That's all I was dealing with. My emotions, figuring out what's next, how I'm trying to, get through this, and then praying. And then next thing you know, everything just skyrocketed after that.
do you have any advice for people who may be dealing with the same thing? They might be at the moment where they're going through a divorce and they just want something more out of their situation that they're going through and just don't know quite how to get out of that mindset.
Yeah, I think when the situation isn't fruitful for both of you, then it's time to, part ways or reevaluate what's going on. But honestly, I feel like divorce is tough for anybody. I don't think it's an easy way to get through any of that. I think I was 25 at the time. Like I didn't think at 25 I'll be going through a divorce. Now I gotta talk about it every time I date somebody. Like, like I'm not thinking like I would have to go through that so early. So, um, I think the best way to kind of get through it is for one, hire a therapist, seek some type of counseling to, go through the emotions that you need to go through. Cause as men, we can mask it. Like, oh, I don't feel it is what it is. But, you really have to talk it out, talk through the situation, and also figure out a plan for yourself. Like now that you out here on your own, how you wanna approach life, what you wanna do, what's your dreams and aspirations. You don't got anybody else to think about. And that's kind of like how I took it. I was like, this is my opportunity to shoot for the stars for real, for real. Like I always say I want to shoot for the stars. This is the time for me to shoot for the stars for real, for real. So I put 100% energy into myself. 100%. I didn't have room to be dating seriously. I didn't have room to, you know, be out here in the streets every night. I was locked in, focusing on my craft, content creation, being the best I can be at my job and leveling up, making connections. And then once I do that, then it's go time and play time for me. So I think you just got to be locked in and focused on your goals and dreams and do whatever it takes to get there.
I hate that you had to, go through that, but I feel like in a way it made you stronger.
Yeah. And without that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Honestly, it's sad, but at the end of the day, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And that's why everything happened for a reason. Sometimes you got to go through those tough breaks and those tough situations to actually set you up to where you need to be and want to be, because the situation you was in was never going to get you there. So,
Okay. I appreciate that. I know someone's going to be listening and they're going to hear your story and resonate with it and might just give them that little extra push that they need to make it through their healing process. You
yeah,
just
you
never
do.
know.
You gotta talk, gotta get it out. And that's the thing. A lot of men don't talk about it. Like a lot of men that's divorced, they don't talk because it's a pride thing. You don't want to seem like you failed at something. You don't want to seem like you lost at something. You wasn't good enough or something like that. So a lot of men don't talk about it. So that's why I actually made a video on my YouTube channel to talk about it, because it's the only video out there like that. And so many men emailed me, messaged me, resonated with it because they didn't have the outlet or felt comfortable enough to even be able to express those things, because we're prideful as men. So yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the content creation
Yeah.
aspect of Corey Jones, because I've learned so much about you. Would you say that in a way the YouTube channel was your kind of like your journal of like just dumping everything that you went through in a effort to kind of like heal from that, or what was the premise of, or the the push that encouraged you to start your social media platform?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. So, right,
Okay.
when I first started content creation, I was making videos about fraternities and sororities. So I was making videos of anybody interested in like Divine Nine, like how you need to approach it, what you need to do research on, kind of like just making sure that you're prepared as yourself before doing any of this, like joining and expressing interest. I did that for like a year, 2 years. And then by then, everything happened with like the divorce and stuff, moved to Atlanta. So then I kind of switched my content into being lifestyle. So then I knew like I had more so of a story, a voice. So I kind of just switched it into lifestyle. Probably lost a couple of subscribers, but I knew it was going to be a short term loss for a long term gain. So I was like, y'all go somewhere else. I'm switching content. So that's how I got into lifestyle. I started to realize that, okay, I'm a black male. We don't really showcase like our true authenticity all the time. And we need people out there that's willing to showcase like the struggles that they've been through, or even just life lessons. My channel is about teaching women and men life lessons that I went through that I wish somebody would have told me. I always like to say I'm your internet cousin. Like I'm gonna tell you some games, some gems. I'm gonna drop it real to you. I'm gonna be authentic and as much as I can be. And that's just me going through different things in life. So not just divorce, but just going through corporate America, going through friendships, going through whatever that I think that I wish I would have had somebody tell me like, yo, when you had this situation, this is probably how you should go after it. So that's the lifestyle piece. The other component is self-development. So of course, like after everything happened, I moved here to Atlanta. I had to go through a self-development journey. I had to start over. I had to pivot. I had to figure out myself. So I had to develop into my own person. So a part of my channel is like giving self-development tactics, hacks, things to improve constantly, daily, monthly, whatever you need. And then the productivity aspect of my channel is just like me being organized. So I'm a very organized person. I like to make sure that I have a calendar, journal, you know, I work in, of course, corporate America. So ways to be productive at work, stuff like that. So those are the layers of my channel, but it all stemmed from, like you said, the switch from when everything happened to like pivoting into what I do now. So hopefully it all makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It does. And definitely I love everything about that. And I have got to make sure that I share this information with anyone
Yeah.
who's listening so that everyone who feels like compelled by what you're saying, they can tune in. I just wish there are more people out here doing stuff like that. And I'm sure there are, but I, I haven't heard of them.
Video drop every Sunday, 6 p.m.
Okay, y'all, get into it. Eastern time, right? 6 p.m.
Eastern.
Eastern.
Yeah.
Okay,
Eastern.
gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Um, so looking back, do you feel like this move to Atlanta has lived up to your expectations, or were there certain aspects of being in Atlanta that surprised you?
Yeah, I think it lived up to my expectations. I moved here with the goal in mind to develop into the man I am now. And a lot of the opportunities that I've been given was due to me being here in Atlanta. Um, I do think if I were just like full straight on content creation, I think it would make better sense to live in New York or LA.
Mm,
But since I'm a hybrid, I still have a corporate job and, I create content. I think it's the best of both worlds. But if I ever were to go full time content creation, I think that I would have to make that move to either LA or New York to really, be able to get to where I would want to be from a content perspective. But yeah, it lived up to it for sure. No complaints. I think the only thing that I've realized is, of course, like with Atlanta, it's very showy. People want to know what you got, what you drive, where you at. Like, I don't subscribe to that type of lifestyle, so I don't put myself in that environment. Um, and then also, I know once I've been here for like 4 years, I was like, since I'm here, I know I'm kind of anchored. I kind of want to give back to the community of Atlanta, so that's how I got inducted into the Emerging 100 of Atlanta, to really start to give back to the community, be a mentor to high school students here, collegiate students, and things like that. Um, but yeah, it's been rewarding. I'm doing what I set out to do, and I can look back for when I first moved here and where I was sleeping on an air mattress at my cousin's space, and get my own apartment to now owning a home. To like, I can look back and be like, this is exactly what I said I was gonna do, how I want it to play out, and I don't have no regrets for it. I have some regrets on maybe how I might have treated some women early on, but that ain't got nothing to do with my professionalism.
nope. Not at all. We have matured.
Yeah, we
We
have
have
matured.
we have matured.
We realized what we wanted in life. We not selfish anymore. We doing what we gotta do. So if any women I used to talk to watching this, I apologize if anything, if I was ignoring you or anything like that. I was locked in my zone. I apologize.
And honestly, the 20s, like, I don't take my 20s seriously.
Kirsty, you
Sorry,
was
I
wilding
just
in your
don't.
20s too?
Not entirely, but I think like just as far as the concept of you're going from college to
Yeah,
4 years where there's just absolutely
yeah,
nothing but like options and fun, and you kind of just are thrusted into the real world, and that
yeah,
transition period is just kind of rough because you're still learning. You're an adult, but you didn't really get to live adult life because you were in college having fun,
right.
and you haven't quite turned that fun switch off.
It's a hard balance.
Yeah, it's a hard balance.
Yeah, ain't no
Um,
problem.
yeah. So do you have any advice for anyone who has an interest in moving to Atlanta at all?
Yeah, I would say move to Atlanta with a blank canvas. Move to Atlanta. with not a color in mind, not a picture on your canvas. Let Atlanta show you what it's willing to do for you versus what you hear, see, heard, anything like that, because that can taint your overall opinion on what Atlanta can offer. But also, I will say, don't ignore the red flags that you might get from Atlanta if it's affecting your life in any way. But I do feel like Atlanta is a city that you can conform to work for you versus work against you based on discipline, maturity, based on who you surround yourself around, as in any bigger city. Um, of course, in big cities, there's crime, there's scammers, there's, in any major big city, you're going to run into some of that. But
Yeah.
also, it's about figuring out how can this city, this place that I'm going to work and benefit me, and surround yourself around people that's going to help you get there and not bring you down from that. Also, I believe Atlanta is a city where you can find a little bit of everything. If you're into music, a lot of music festivals. If you like to eat, a lot of places to eat. It's a city of forests. It's trees everywhere, parks, nature, mountains, Stone Mountain, Kennesaw Mountain. It's a little bit of everything where you can find your pockets of what you're looking for if you put yourself out there. But if you want to party, be on the scene, be in the streets, you can do that too. But just know it's going to lead you down a path where you might not see as much growth as you anticipate having coming here to Atlanta. So I say only move to Atlanta if you know you're going to have discipline, a little bit of maturity, and know exactly what you want.
And
And
if
that's
you
my
know how
speech
to
for being
drive.
mayor.
I was about to say.
Yeah, and if you know how to drive, because 85 don't play, and all them lanes, and people be ready to honk that horn at you. So yeah, that's my speech for being the next mayor of Atlanta. No, I'm just playing.
Hey, who knows? Who knows? Life took you far already.
Yeah,
Who's to say
yeah,
it's not going to take you any further as far
you're right.
as being in a government position? You just never know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if politics is for me. That's an area I never ever tapped into and might not ever want to tap into. But maybe down the line, something might tug on me and be like, "Hey, you got to make a difference." So this is your way to do it. So you never know. But y'all heard it here first if that happens.
Y'all heard it here first. Hey. Okay, one more question before we go.
Hmm.
All right, I want you to think about Corey from 6 years ago. Corey who got up and left Charlotte, moved to Atlanta, was just chilling with that. You said air mattress, right?
Yeah, back was hurting for days. I would
Oh
wake up.
no.
I would wake up at 7 p.m. The air mattress done deflated, back on the floor.
Oh. Well, we had the same experience. I had an air mattress when I first moved to Houston,
See?
and that was my go-to for a good 2 months. And I had money. I could have gotten a new bed, but I was again like I never had to even buy stuff like that on my own. So I was still kind of like in kid mode of like, mommy, help me. I just don't know what to do. I help, I've fallen, I can't get up. I don't know what to do. Help me. Help me. I don't even
Me.
know where do you go to buy a mattress? Like, how does this work? So I felt
Yeah,
truly.
yeah, that was definitely me. But yeah, sorry I derailed you from your question.
Yeah, no, you good. Yeah, think about like that, Corey. We in that Corey mode, right?
Hmm.
Uh what advice now that you 6 years deep, doing well. What advice would you give to that version of Corey, fresh out of Charlotte and new to Atlanta?
Um, I probably would give that. The advice I would give is to give yourself grace. Give yourself grace and time. I think when I first moved here, I was trying to make something shake and bake, and I ain't even had the ingredients. So, I think I think that's probably what I would tell myself. Give myself grace and collect the ingredients. Once I collect the ingredients, then start to bake. But I was trying to bake without a recipe, without ingredients. And I think it caused a little bit more stress on myself trying to prove to myself that I was making the right moves and progressing in life than anything. Also, I would say to that, Corey, seek counseling early, you know, not let anything fester, go to a therapist early on, be more open about how you feel when it comes to talking to women or even with yourself. Yeah, I think that's probably what I would tell my those top two things would have probably changed my whole perspective of when I first moved here.
Yeah. That makes me think about like people who would it move and they have just these expectations that they expect to happen like
Hmm.
now, like just the patience just isn't there, or maybe it was for a bit, and then when things don't go their way when they wanted to, all of a sudden, this is the worst city ever. I should have never made this move. I don't know what's happening, but things are going haywire. This is not for me. Slow and steady, absolutely wins the race. I mean, as long as it's not affecting your health or really affecting your money, as long as you got that plan, like you mentioned, you you can really do a lot.
Yep, sure can. And I always
Yeah.
say, don't let someone else negligence deter you from giving a city its all. Because I think a lot of times when I hear about Atlanta, people say, "Oh, the dating is bad and I'm getting treated like that and this and that," which could be true, but that's somebody else. Like, you don't have control over anybody else, Like, if you continue like operating like how you're supposed to and within your values and your morals, the right person will come along no matter where you're at, especially if you surround yourself around people that could bring you the energy that you're looking for too. But don't let it deter you from the big A. We full, but we still accepting people.
I think people were with you on that mayoral idea until you said we have room. Clearly we have more room, especially you see it on I-85. There's plenty of space for the cars. Plenty.
It's plenty of space. You don't need a helicopter or anything here. You could drive. It's perfectly fine.
Gosh. Okay.
Shoot, we might
Just
need some jet packs, honestly, because the way these cars be on that highway,
flying cars. That would be nice.
yeah, that would be awesome. Tesla, where y'all at? Put
Right.
some jets on them things. Let's get that
Right.
popping.
We don't need any more box trucks on the road
Exactly.
or whatever that thing is called, Cybertruck. We don't need that.
You don't like the
It's like
Cybertruck?
it's not flying in the air. Why you calling it a Cybertruck? It doesn't even fly.
Because it
Make it
looked
make sense.
futuristic. That's the cyber comes from futuristic, I think.
Oh, he's not thinking enough into the future. We have enough cars on the road. Thank you, Mr. Elon. Can we get some cars to fly now? That would be great. And
Yeah.
I think even then, certain people need to go through some hoops and tests and I mean, you can't be drunk and flying a car.
Yeah, no drunken flying. You can't have no DUI records. You can't be a felon because police be trying to pull somebody over to dip off in the sky on them, boy.
Are we? Yo, I feel like, maybe if person has a record and they paid their debts to society, let them fly the car. Let them fly.
Okay.
But if they drunk, I just know. You said, okay, now you're not with it, Mr. Mayor, future mayor. Okay.
Nah. If you got a record, you ain't flying nothing in the city of Atlanta. You gonna have to be on the roads with everybody else. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yo,
You gonna have to
okay.
take the long way home.
Y'all also heard it
Unfortunately.
first. The
Yeah.
wrong way. Yo, weak. Absolutely weak. But I appreciate you. I appreciate your time.
I
And
appreciate you for having me.
anytime. Anytime. Good talk. And keep doing what you're doing, inspiring people. I promise y'all I will share all of Corey's links because he's definitely someone you want to pick. You want to learn more from, and that's why I got him on this podcast.
Thank you.
Seriously, this is why I got him on this podcast. I knew your story enough to where I felt like it would resonate with people, and it aligns with the purpose of me even starting this in the first place. So truly
Lovely.
appreciate you.
I appreciate it. I'm glad that you allowed me to come on here and grace the podcast stage. Like she said, if y'all want to follow me, I'm Corey M. Jones on all platforms. Well, Corey M. Jones 3 on all platforms. Can't forget the 3, Trey Club. But
Trey Club.
but yeah, we'd love to have y'all watch, subscribe, engage with me. You know, we just trying to share life lessons around here. So appreciate you though. Thank you.
And with that being said, thank you for listening to the Relocate Podcast. Have a lovely day.